Okay, moving along with the life of Moses, we are in the section entitled, just read the war with Amalek, and are moving into the section, the mountain of divine knowledge. Again, Scripture leads our understanding upward to the higher levels of virtue. For the man who received strength from the food, showed his power in fighting with his enemies, and was the victor over his opponents, is then led to the ineffable knowledge of God. Scripture teaches us by these things the nature and the number of things one must accomplish in life before he would at some time dare to approach in his understanding the mountain of divine knowledge, of the mountain of the knowledge of God, to hear the sound of the trumpets, to enter into the darkness where God is, to inscribe the tablets with divine characters, and if these should be broken through some offense, again to present the hand-cut tables to God, and to carve with the divine finger the letters which were damaged on the first tables. It would be better next, in keeping with the order of the history, to harmonize what is perceived with the spiritual sense. Whoever looks at Moses and the cloud, both of whom are guides to those who progress in virtue, Moses in this place would be the legal precepts, and the cloud which leads the proper understanding of the law, who has been purified by crossing the water, who has put the foreigner to death and separated himself from the foreigner, who has tasted the waters of Marah, that is, the life removed far from pleasures, which although appearing bitter and unpleasant at first to those tasting it, offers a sweet sensation to those accepting the wood, who has then delighted in the beauties of the palm trees and springs, which were those who preached the gospel, who were filled with the living water, which is the rock, who received the heavenly bread, who has played the man against the foreigner, who for whom the outstretched hands of the lawgiver became the cause of victory, foreshadowing the mystery of the cross. He it is who then advances to the contemplation of the transcendent nature. His way to such knowledge is purity, not only purity of a body sprinkled by some luster vessels, but also of the clothes washed from every stain with water. This means that the one person who would approach the contemplation of being must be pure in all things, so as to be pure in soul and body, washed stainless of every spot in both parts, in order that he might appear pure to the one who sees what is hidden, and that visible respectability might correspond to the inward condition of the soul. For this reason, the garments are washed at divine command before he ascends the mountain, the garments representing for us in a figure the outward respectability of life. No one would say that a visible spot on the garments hinders the progress of those ascending to God, but I think that the outward pursuits of life are well named the garment. When this had been accomplished and the herd of irrational animals had been driven as far from the mountain as possible, Moses then approached the ascent to lofty perceptions. That none of the irrational animals was allowed to appear on the mountain signifies, in my opinion, that in the contemplation of the intelligibles we surpass the knowledge which originates with the senses. For it is characteristic of the nature of irrational animals that they are governed by the senses alone, divorced from understanding. Their sight and hearing often led them to what stimulates their appetites. Also, all other things through which sense perceptions become active assume an important place in irrational animals. The contemplation of God is not effected by sight and hearing, nor is it comprehended by any of the customary perceptions of the mind. For no eye has seen and no ear has heard, nor does it belong to those which usually enter into the heart of man. He who would approach the knowledge of things sublime must first purify his manner of life from all sensual and irrational emotion. He must wash from his understanding every opinion derived from some preconception, and withdraw himself from his customary intercourse with his own companion, that is, with his sense perceptions, which are, as it were, wedded to our nature as its companion. When he is so purified, then he assaults the mountain. The knowledge of God is a mountain steep indeed and difficult to climb. The majority of the people scarcely reach its base. If one were a Moses, he would ascend higher and hear the sound of the trumpets, which, as the text of the history says, becomes louder as one advances. For the preaching of the divine nature is truly a trumpet blast, which strikes the hearing, being already loud at the beginning, but becoming yet louder at the end. The law and the prophets trumpeted the divine mystery of the incarnation, but the first sounds were too weak to strike the disobedient ear. Therefore the Jews' deaf ears did not receive the sound of the trumpets. As the trumpets come closer, according to the text, they become louder. The last sounds which came through the preaching of the Gospels struck their ears, since the Spirit through his instruments sounds a noise more loudly ringing and makes a sound more vibrant in each succeeding spokesman. The instruments which ring out the Spirit's sound would be the prophets and apostles, whose voice, as the Psalter says, goes out through all earth in their message to the ends of the world. The multitude was not capable of hearing the voice from above, but relied on Moses to learn by himself the secrets and to teach the people whatever doctrine he might learn through instruction from above. This is also the true of the arrangement in the church. Not all thrust themselves toward the apprehension of the mysteries, but choosing from among themselves someone who is able to hear things divine, they give ear gratefully to him, considering trustworthy whatever they might hear from someone initiated into the divine mysteries. It is said that not all are apostles nor all prophets, but this is not now heeded in many of the churches. For many, still in need of being purified from the way they have lived, unwashed and full of spots in their life's garment, and protecting themselves only with their irrational senses, makes an assault on the divine mountain. So it happens that they are stoned by their own reasonings, for heretical opinions are in effect stones which crush the inventor of evil doctrines. All right, next time we will continue with the darkness.